Yo, good morning, party people. It is January 25th. Okay, so today we are back in Hosea. We are in the second chapter of Hosea for our Bible study, but this morning we are in for our daily reading. Let me give you that. We are in the Old Testament for our daily reading. We did Numbers 9:10, Esther 5:6. I almost did Esther. We might do that one next. That's awesome. Revelations 11:12, Psalms 81:82, and then Proverbs 20. Okay, so that's for our daily reading, and I know you're reading your Bible. Okay, so today we're back in the book of Hosea. Let me show you on my little map in case you have not seen any of my videos and you did not follow us in Amos. So Hosea is following right on the heels of Amos. So we just did a study on the book of Amos, how he was from the southern kingdom. God sent him to the northern kingdom to prophesy against the nation of Israel, right? Remember, the kingdoms are divided. I'll show you on the map real quick. Okay, so here's the nation of Israel. This is after the nation has been separated under Solomon's son Rehoboam. 10 tribes went to the north, 2 tribes went to the south. The northern kingdom was always a mess. The southern kingdom did much better, but sometimes they were a mess as well. So what we see here is there's little Amos that we just finished, and here's Hosea. So Hosea, this line right here delineates the fall of the northern kingdom to the kingdom of Assyria. This line delineates the fall of the southern kingdom to the kingdom of Babylon. And this is where we see in the exile the story of Daniel when he was in Babylon in the captivity. But we're back here with Hosea. So Hosea is prophesying to the kings in the north. He's from the northern kingdom. And he's coming against a lot of the same things that we saw with Amos, right? The kingdom is prospering. It's doing great. Financially and militarily, it's pushing back borders. It's regaining land that had been lost to after Solomon and David to the Assyrians and different people. However, the social dysfunction in the country is a total mess. The entire it's completely corrupt. The people are buying judgments from judges. Judges are allowing themselves to be bribed. They're cheating the poor, and the poor are becoming poorer, not because of distress or because of poor decisions, but literally because their countrymen are taking advantage of them. They're doing everything they can to take as much money as they can, and enriching the top percentage of the community are getting richer on the backs of the poor. Like I've said in the past, it's God does not hate people that have wealth. That's not a problem as long as you do it in a godly way, right? The minute you start corrupting things and doing things in an evil way, lying, deception, that's when God's going to not be very thrilled. So what we see here is that's what he's coming up against. But the main thing that Hosea was coming up against, Amos was more focused on the what was happening within the social structure, whereas Hosea is more focused on the pollution and the corruption within the religious sector. So, and which is the source, right? If that is straightened out, if you get rid of all the paganism, the worship of the Baals, and the pretend worship of God in the pretend temples that they have up there, if you straighten all that out, then all the rest will come, right? Because whatever you're worshiping, ultimately, that is what's going to infiltrate the rest of the community. So because of the corruption at the top with the priestly class and the, all of the worship, that is what's permeated the society. So the minute that's corrupt, everything else is going to fall as well. So that's kind of what Hosea is focusing on. So this next chapter in chapter 2 in Hosea is pretty vivid. I mean, Hosea doesn't play. he's just like, you're a whore, basically, in their language. So again, he's calling Israel back to their first husband, right, which is God. They were betrothed to God. They were God's chosen, and they have turned away from God, and they're worshiping the Baals and all the other crap that's around them. So now in chapter 2, it says, "Say to your brethren, my people, and to your sisters, mercy is shown." Okay, so right there, those two first verses in chapter 2, he's reversing the names that he had called the 3 children. Remember, he had 3 children through a woman who had committed adultery, and the marriage of Hosea was supposed to represent the kingdom of the nation of Israel and the relationship with God, right? The nation of Israel has committed adultery against God. And so you often see with prophets that God calls them to physically act out certain things that are going on within the country or judgments of God, right? So this is what you see with Hosea. God sent Hosea and told him to marry a woman and that she was going to become an adulteress. And the children that come forth are not even necessarily his. The commentary alludes in chapter 1 that those children are children of fornication. So all three of the children have prophetic names. The two children that they're referring to here in these two verses in chapter 2, say to your brethren, my people, and to your sisters, mercy is shown. Remember, Lo Ruhamah was the daughter, and that meant not loved. And Lo Ami was the final child that says, you are not my people. So he's reversing those names, right? Now it says in verse 2, God's unfaithful people. So here we go. Here's Hosea laying into him. So this is God speaking. Bring charges against your mother. Bring charges. So that he's talking about the nation of Israel. For she is not my wife, nor am I her husband. Let her put away her harlotries from her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked and expose her as she was in the day she was born, and make her like a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. Okay, so what's interesting there is he's telling them, of course, to put away the adulteries, right? And all the crap that they're doing, worshiping the Baals, the Canaanite gods, all that crap. Then when he says, lest I expose her in the day she was born and make her like a wilderness in a dry land. So here, what they're worshiping are these fertility gods, right? So they think that because the crops are doing well, they have all kinds of wine and fruitfulness, that's from their worshiping these fertility gods. And so God's saying, I know I control that, right? All these things are from me. And so because of that, when I judge you, I'm going to remove all these things from you. And you're going to be like a wilderness, like a dry land. You're going to be struggling with thirst. So remember, in Amos, it talked about the women drinking wine in bowls. They were not satisfied to drink wine in cups. The pollution of the land and the perversion of the society was so bad that the rich were so affluent that they refused to drink wine from a cup. The women had to drink wine in bowls. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. So this is kind of what he's referring to here. All of that produce and all of the great things that have been happening, the productivity is going to be removed. Verse 4 says, I will not have mercy on her children, for they are the children of harlotry. For their mother has played the harlot. She who conceived them has behaved shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink. Excuse me. So those are things that she was getting for her prostitution, right? And literally, so when you're a literal, temple prostitute, people would pay you with some of that stuff too, right? But they were also thinking nationally as a nation that their wealth and their productivity was coming because of these Canaanite gods. And so now it says in verse 6, therefore, behold, this is God speaking, I will hedge up your way with thorns and wall her in so that she cannot find her paths. She will chase her lovers, but not overtake them. Yes, she will seek them, but not find them. Then she will say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then it was better for me than now. For she did not know that I gave her grain, new wine, and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal. Okay, so this is powerful. So he's saying, God's saying here that I'm going to hedge up your way with thorns and wall her in so that she cannot find her path. She will chase her lovers and not overtake them. So when the judgment begins to come, they're going to be desperate to even search more for these false gods, right? They're going to refer back thinking that all of the blessings that they had were from these false gods, and it describes how when it says that she was going to chase them, shows that they're fervent seeking after this false worship. It wasn't like they idly fell into it and maybe passed by. So what's going on here? No, they were like really involved in it. This was like they were very passionate and into this false worship, right? And so he's saying that, and then he says that so when these things are bad, instead of turning to God, like in a time of a siege or something, they're going to turn back even more to these false gods. So that's what he's saying here. I will go back. I will return to my first husband, for then it was better for me than now. They're not talking about God, which is what they should be talking about, but they're talking about the Baals. And then it says, but she doesn't know that I gave her all these things. I gave her the wine and the oil, multiplied her silver and gold. But what did they do? They prepared it for Baal. Okay, so that's where I'm going to end, is at the end of verse 8. And then we're going to go on and do another one here in just a second. Okay, so hold tight. Jesus is coming. Read your Bible. Hold tight for number 2. Peace.